Kate, we're good. Go ahead.
Okay, I guess I'll start with the preamble, Mr. Chairman.
Are we actually having a meeting? Is that what we're doing?
We are.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome to the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Richmond Hill. I would ask for a reading of the preamble, please.
Thank you. Today's committee meeting is an electronic meeting being held during an emergency pursuant to sections 238, 3.3 of the Municipal Act 2001. Due to the efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and protect all individuals, city facilities will not be open to the public to attend committee meetings until further notice. The Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Richmond Hill has been appointed by Council to consider applications for minor variance and consent within the jurisdiction of the Planning Act. The committee's decision may be appealed to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, and all appeals and associated fees must be filed directly with the Secretary Treasurer in accordance with the Planning Act. To be notified of a Local Planning Appeal Tribunal hearing, you must request a copy of the committee's decision in writing. The public may submit written correspondence regarding agenda matters by email to committeeofadjustment@richmondhill.ca. All written correspondence received by 4:30 p.m. today has been provided to the committee members electronically. Delegates are reminded to please mute your microphone or phone and turn off your video until it is your turn to speak. Please make sure your microphone is not muted when you are speaking. Every registered delegate will be provided 5 minutes to speak. The clerk will announce when you have 1 minute left and when your time is up. If members do not have questions, or after all questions have been asked, your delegation is over. Please sign off of Zoom or hang up your phone once the committee has made a decision on your application. You can watch the rest of the meeting on our live stream. Over to you, Chairman.
Sorry.
Over to you, Alex.
Okay, introduce our Secretary Treasurer is Andrea Clement. This evening's assistance provided by our planning department looks like it's going to be Gus this evening, although I see Amanda there. She's not showing her face. So do we have any conflicts of interest this evening, gentlemen? And do we have any requests for adjournments or withdrawals?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do not.
Thank you. I would ask then that the first order of business be brought up. I assume that would be someone asking us to approve this meeting protocol.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. You have a staff report before you today regarding establishing a protocol for electronic meetings. I've prepared a brief presentation to go over the highlights of that staff report, and we'll be here to answer any questions afterwards. So Mr. Clerk, if we could have the presentation brought up on the shared screen. Okay, so as I noted, the staff report for the committee today is to discuss the protocol for holding electronic meetings. Next slide, please. As I'm sure the committee knows, on March 17th, 2020, the province of Ontario declared an emergency as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. The emergency resulted in the cancellation of all council and committee meetings, including a couple of committee of adjustment meetings. In order to try and get the city back to business, as it were, and to allow the considerations of all types of development applications and to hold council meetings, on April 1st this year, Richmond Hill Council considered a staff report to specifically establish a protocol for holding electronic meetings during the emergency period. Next slide, please. The report, amongst other matters, included direction for the city clerk to establish the protocol and specifically outline how they would be held. So in this regard, the meetings would be held using Zoom video conferencing software, which would allow council and committee members to directly participate in the meeting, and stakeholders, interested stakeholders in the public, to participate through a defined delegation process. Security measures would also be put in place by the city clerk to ensure that the meetings were run in an organized and secure manner. Next slide, please. Notifications for meetings would be provided in accordance with the standard meeting procedures. So if it was a public meeting, I would be using the Planning Act direction for notifications. And these notifications would include specific wording reflecting the electronic nature of the meeting and to provide clear direction advising how the public and stakeholders could participate. Council adopted the recommendations of that staff report, and they enacted specific changes to the city's procedural bylaw for holding electronic meetings. The city's procedural bylaw, however, does not apply specifically to the Committee of Adjustment. Next slide. The operation of the committee is actually governed by the provisions of the Statutory Powers and Procedures Act. This act already allows the committee to hold electronic meetings, but it does not direct specifically how the meetings are to be conducted. So the province, in their wisdom, as a result of the emergency, they passed further legislation to grant additional powers to tribunals such as the Committee of Adjustment for the holding of electronic meetings and to give them the authority to address a number of matters. That would include making any orders or to give direction that it considers appropriate for holding the meetings, to address the format of the meeting, and to address any other matters related to the issuance of public notice, the submission of materials for applications, attendance at the meeting, and public access to the meeting. Next slide. So in order for this committee to properly hold an electronic meeting that will meet the statutory requirements needed to consider consent and minor variance applications, the town solicitor advised that the committee must adopt a revised meeting protocol. So city staff has given careful consideration to the direction provided by council, the legislation, and the legislation passed by the province, and has prepared a number of measures for consideration by the committee should they consider to establish a protocol for holding electronic meetings. Next slide, please. The details of those measures are outlined in the staff report before the committee tonight, but I'll just give a brief summary. They outline measures required to hold electronic meetings, including the technology to be used for holding the meeting, how the meeting is to be conducted, the ability to live stream the meeting, the provision of notice in accordance with the Planning Act, direction on how stakeholders are to participate in the meeting, and direction on how the committee members are to sign decisions. And as I stated, the recommendations for that, how to do that, are in the details of the staff report before the committee tonight. Next slide, please. So in closing, having regard for the extraordinary circumstances that we're in during this emergency period, excuse me, it is recommended that the revised meeting protocol and procedures outlined in the staff report before the committee tonight be adopted. It's also recommended that the committee authorize the Secretary Treasurer to revise the existing Committee of Adjustment meeting protocol as necessary in order to facilitate electronic delegations and submissions as part of the new protocol. And I believe that's the end of my presentation to you tonight, Mr. Chair and committee. If you have any questions, either myself or Andrea will try to answer them, and we could move forward should the committee wish to adopt this recommendation.
That last slide that you had, Gus,
Yes.
you're looking for two motions from us?
If the staff report before you under the recommendations, there's actually an A and a B. So it's one recommendation, but it's in two parts, Alex.
Okay. So you're looking for a motion and an approval from us for those things?
I am, sir.
Or for that recommendation? Now, I know you have the slide there, but I'm desperately and quickly looking at the paper copy that I have in front of me here. And which page are we looking at?
It would be on the very first page of the staff report that's in front of the committee this evening.
Oh, okay, that the Committee of Adjustment adopt procedures with respect to the holding of electronic Committee of Adjustment meetings during the COVID-19 emergency, and that the Secretary Treasurer or delegate be authorized to facilitate electronic delegations and submissions for electronic Committee of Adjustment here. Do you have any questions or comments, gentlemen, before we approve this or make a motion to approve this? I see none. I'd be happy to entertain a motion then to approve this recommendation. Mustafa,
I move that the committee protocols for electronic meetings as recommended by the planning department be approved. There are two parts to it. Shall we do two separate motions?
I think I heard Gus say that one would do, that it's a
Okay.
two-part single motion.
All right. In that case, I move to approve that the Committee of Adjustment adopt procedures with respect to the holding of electronic Committee of Adjustment meetings during the COVID-19 emergency as outlined in the report by the Planning Department. That's part one. Part two is to approve that the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment or their designate be authorized to facilitate electronic delegations and submissions for electronic Committee of Adjustment meetings held during the COVID-19 emergency.
Moved by member Mustafa Master, seconded by member Carlo Durezzi. All in favor? I see all four hands and mine going up too, so that's 5 approved. Next order of business.
Next order of business, we shall move forward to adjourn the meeting, and then we can do a screen share of the minutes to adopt the minutes.
Okay. Before we do that, it seems to me there was a question of our last meeting and getting signatures redone for the last meeting that we had. Is there something outstanding there that we should deal with before we adjourn this meeting? Question to Andrea.
We can discuss that, I believe, after.
Okay, fair enough. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn the meeting.
Moved by member Durezzi, seconded by member Gandhi. All in favor? I see 5 hands. Approved. Thank you. Okay, Andrea, over to you. Or over
Sorry,
to
could you
Brian.
just bear with me? This meeting has ended, so I'm going to stop the live stream. Give me 1 second.